Let's go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Andoni here. This is our last office hours of the year. It's crazy how fast the year passed and how much we improved Prowler this year. People was like really surprised at Rain seeing our demos. And for today, a very quick overview of the latest changes. Not the latest because the team is releasing right now the last version, but the previous one. I'm going to show the previous one, and then today's start, Pedro is going to talk about Prowler ThreatScore and explain why, how it works, and I hope some demos. And of course, feel free to ask questions. At the end, you can ask about new features, the roadmap, how we work. So, okay. So let me share. Okay. Okay. First of all, I'm going to share the link for the release notes in the chat. So you can read all the notes from the 5.15 version. But okay. Let me show you the highlights. As you know, we've been working on the overview page and we added a very new cool sections like the attack surface. So you can instantly like understand the most exposed risk like internet exposed resource. You can go directly to those findings related with public resources, exposed secrets. This is like pre-cook filters, so you can go directly to those findings. Here you can see we have like 500 because it's the same task definition over and over again. And policy privilege escalations and EC2. This is like our attack surface section. We have also the service watchlist, so you can see the services with the most number of findings. And my favorite, that is the finding severity over time. This is the one that your manager is going to ask you about, like, okay, are we going down in findings? Are we having more findings, less findings? Which one are going down? Which one no? And more sections here. Oh, this one also, I like it a lot. We need to enable zoom on it because when you have like all the all the providers, it's hard to follow the lines. But as you can see, you can assess like the percentage of the findings here is like very like balanced. But if you had like a lot of critical coming from one provider, you will see like a huge line here. Also, the threat map, which is like a really cool way of seeing findings in the different regions. So you can choose here the region or filter here the region, and you can go directly, okay, what are the file findings of the region? And last but not least, and related with today's topic, we have the risk plot that is a graph with the fail findings and the Prowler threat score for each provider. I guess Pedrito is going to go more deep on this later. So yeah. Apart from that, we have more providers in the cloud. We have now support for MongoDB that was already in the CLI, but you have already now support in the cloud too. And also here we added to where it is Alibaba Cloud, only in the CLI, it will be on the app soon. And of course, we keep improving Lighthouse AI. It's going to have a huge refactor in the 5.16, like moving from the current architecture to a more MCP-oriented one. But we also added support for Bedrock API key support because a lot of you in the community asked for it. And that's all for the news. We have a lot of more news in the changelog, but I want Pedrito to start with the fun part of today. So, Pedrito, tell us about ThreatScore.
Okay, nice. So, just a quick presentation. I'm Pedro Martin. I've been working in Prowler in the compliance part like for 2 years now. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here to explain a bit what we do in Prowler with this and what we do especially with Prowler ThreatScore. If I share my screen, should be the second one. Okay. I'll put you here. So yeah, this session will last like for half an hour or something like that. I'll try to explain why we think that Prowler ThreatScore is really important nowadays in cloud environments and maybe in other non-cloud environments too. We'll see that too. The thing is that we've been dealing with the problem that sometimes we have like too many findings, and we wanna solve this problem mainly. Okay, so for the agenda today, we are gonna have the introduction and the problems that we may face. What is Prowler Threat Score and why we have created that? How the score works, the pillars and subpillars that should be like the anatomy of the compliance of this sort of compliance. Which providers do we support? And a small live demo. At the end, we'll try to get some PRs related with Prowler Threat Score. So let's see who who is brave enough to add new PRs and contribute to the project. So yeah, so as you know, Prowler is open source, and at the end, we can have some validation with the people that use it. Maybe add some issues, some PRs in order to fix some stuff. So yeah, here is Prowler Hub, our main source of trust. And if we go to this part, we can see that, for example, for AWS, we support a bunch of compliance. You can go there and filter by provider, see which AWS compliance do we support. And if we go to this part, we are getting the Prowler Threat Score. That is the main focus for today. So yeah, here we can check the compliance metadata. In Prowler, we treat a compliance as a list of requirements, and each requirement will have like a sort of attributes and some checks related with it. So at the end, we are getting a very well. It will depends on the compliance, but in this case, it's a big JSON file. Will add the information that we wanna hold into this compliance. So here we can get some information about the Prowler Threat Score, the name, the version, the provider, in this case AWS, the description, and here is the part of the sauce. That is the requirements. Okay. So for example, in this part, we are gonna ensure that the MFA is enabled for the root user account. This has a direct Prowler mapping check. That is this one and these attributes. We are gonna go deeper in this part a bit later. So just to have a brief view. Here we have the requirements. That is, the requirements are like the pillars of this compliance, and we have other sections that I'm gonna explain later. I just show you this in order to give you a brief view of what we are gonna share, what this JSON will become in the future. So yeah, following the agenda, we are gonna in Prowler we had the problem that we had a huge amount of information from the environment that we were scanning for the clients. And the thing is that we wanted to know what does really matter depending on the environment configuration at the end. So compliance sometimes is a matter of checking a box and saying, hey, I have this port closed, I have this role correctly configured, but at the end, these configurations can be a bit too extended for the things that we want. So we try to do something related with the prioritization and importance of each findings. Okay, so that's how our threat score works and how it burns. So a typical Prowler scan can generate like 100,000 of findings. All findings could be valid, but at the end, a public S3 bucket isn't the same that a bad configure, I don't know, like a missing that server or a missing tag on another server, for example. So most of the reports, for example, SOC 2 compliance and all those compliance could treat them with the same importance, but at the end, you can't compare a missing tag with an open S3 bucket. So The dilemma that we are dealing with is that we don't want really spend like a lot of hours sorting through the findings to figure out what really matters. And at the end, you are picking something and you hope that you are getting something valid, right? So this focus doesn't work it for us. So that's why we try to work in this product that score. The problem is in the lack of information, is that there is too much information without a clear path to follow and attention to care, right? Or a real prioritization to fix. As I said previously, we can go through other compliance that could be like, I don't know, the CIS 5.0. And if we go requirement, for example, maintain current contact details, it should be a pass, but maybe the MFA disable or enable for the root user account has the same value that having the account contact information. But for us, this was something totally different, right? So we can find other sort of requirements, like for example in SOC 2, we've been dealing with requirements that could be ensure that the door from the server is closed with a sort of lock that at the end, in cloud environment, we can test them. But that's something that for us really matters because it isn't hard. So we're gonna go through the part of what is Prowler ThreatScore and why we created it. Um, Prowler ThreatScore is a weighted risk prioritization compliance framework, sorry, that helps you to focus on the most critical security findings first. So we are getting like this huge amount of findings, and we are telling you what really matters in your environment, depending on the configuration first, of course. So the solution for this is that we are weighting the risk that you are facing in your environment. Okay. So, for example, a threat score can get the whole context and it will understand the checks for the optimal logging. Sorry, for the optimal solution of all the information that you are providing to us. For example, to give you some context, it knows that 100 failed checks for an optional logging shouldn't matter more than 5 critical AIM failures at first. Another fact is that we are using some kind of, well, it isn't too complex at all. It is just a matter of mathematics. We calculate that depending on the amount of findings. So we weight those requirements. Okay. The which audience could try a Prowler Threat Score or should treat Prowler Threat Score as something important for them is people with in charge of compliance that could be in the middle, like in the middle of the things trying to deal with the noise that sometimes environments can do, and trying to take care of the things that really with really high risk. Um, Security engineers that at the end they want to prioritize their work. They want to fix the things that are really important first. Some people that may use Prowler Threat Score too are the executives, because at the end, uh, in this case, we are trying to find a solution which is the page, the final page that says or tells you if you are safe or not. Okay, so that's something that we've been introducing to with Product Test Score. That is the PDF reporting that I'll show you later. Okay, so we are gonna go through the Product Test Score documentation. I'll share here the link. Let me. And sorry. So here is the link for I'm gonna go through. So here is the Product Threat Score documentation. And if we go to the How Threat Score Works section, we are gonna see that we are gonna get, first of all, the pass rate. That is the percentage of security checks that passed for a specific requirement. and the total findings. The total findings is the amount of findings that are associated with a requirement, okay? And the total number of checks performed, both pass and fail for the requirement. And this is the important part of Prowler ThreatScore, that is the weight and the risk, okay? So a weight is a value that we are providing that is between 1 and 1,000, and it represents the business importance or criticality to the requirement. For example, an open bucket will have a huge weight that could be 1,000, or a requirement that is related with an open bucket will have a weight of 1,000 and with a huge risk level. That follows me to the risk level. That is a severity at the end. It's a severity, a ranking from 1 to 5, that indicates the potential impact of a non-compliance requirement. Okay, so here we can get some score interpretation guidelines, because at the end we are getting a value from 0 to 100%, and we can try to map those scores into an interpretation at the end. But it depends on the team, right? Like at the end, some teams can feel safe with a 80%, or for others will be something really, really bad. Okay. So if we go to the mathematical formula, we are gonna find that is a matter of taking all these requirements that doesn't pass, multiplied by the requirement, the total requirement, sorry, the total findings for a requirement, multiplied by the weight and the risk, and divided by the total findings for this requirement. For example, if for a requirement we are passing 20 findings, but the total findings are 1,000, in the first value, the top part of the division will be much smaller than the second part, so that leads us to a really, really small threat score, right? So it's a matter of changing the weights, changing the risk, and taking into account that the bigger amount of findings that you are having for a requirement, sorry, the bigger importance it will have. So it always produce a score between 0 and 100. Requirement with more findings have proportionally greater influence. That's what I just said. Risk sensitive, so higher risk requirement impact more on the score. Wide value allow customization based on organizational priorities. This is something that we are just about to launch. It's the matter of changing those values depending on the organization or on your goals organizations at the end. So here we can go through some parameters, explain at the end, weighting range, risk level. If we go to the anatomy of this compliance, we created some pillars and subpillars. We have 4 main pillars. Later, those pillars will have smaller sections that could be the subpillars. So the first pillar is the AAM, of course. We can miss this one. This is one of the most important one. Well, at the end, 4 of them they are really important. But our purpose here is to control who can access and what resources at the end, in which conditions. Those subpillars are authentication, authorization, and privilege escalation. In Prowler, we have a bunch of checks related with privilege escalation. We wanted to spectate them inside this subpillar. So in the second point, we have the attack surface, is to try to have the smaller exposure points that could be exploited by threat actors. Okay, this is related with network, storage, and application layers, which are the subpillars for this pillar. And in the third, we have the logging and monitoring one. Now, our goal at the end in this part is to have the biggest visibility and audit capabilities. which subpillars we have logging, rotation, and monitoring. And in the encryption section pillar, sorry, we have those subpillars. The encryption in transit between communication at the end and at rest. So once we store some things, we are gonna have encryption enabled too. So this is the requirement structure, and this could be an example. That is, for example, in authentication, we have a requirement that is related with MFA, which we have like 3 MFA related checks. Sorry. So this is something that we have seen because, for example, we usually assign more or less the same weight, or the same weight is related with the risk range. For example, a value between a value of weight between 800 and 1,000 has the typical risk range from 4 to 5, and this with all the rest, because at the end, the importance is really close related with the risk. So we've seen these cases. But yeah, changing a bit of topic. Let me go through the agenda to review. Okay. So I wanted to show you which provider do we support for this Prowler ThreatScore. For this, we are gonna use Prowler Hub, of course. So we go here, browse compliance, and these are the providers that we support in Prowler. Alibaba Cloud Prowler ThreatScore is coming. From now, we only support the CIS 2.0. From AWS, you already know that we support Prowler ThreatScore. For Azure, we support it too. For GitHub, we don't support for now. For Google Cloud, we don't support it too. For the EIC provider, we don't support. For Kubernetes, it just came like a couple of releases ago, I think. It's working really, really well. And for Microsoft, it is working too. So the thing is that you can see that here, like we have multiple different providers. Some of them are related with cloud environments, but others no. For example, Kubernetes at the end. And the thing is that we were able to implement this compliance without taking care of the sort of environment. For example, here you can see that in Kubernetes, we are having the same requirements done in, sorry, let me go here, in AWS. Okay, so here you can see that you have the same pattern done here, of course. And yeah, as I said previously, you can go deeper, you can drill down, going by pillar, sub-pillar, and reaching the requirement. And here you will get all the information that we are supporting for this requirement. As I said, Prowler ThreatScore has some attributes that at the end, here you have the title, the weight, that is the value that gives us like the importance of the requirement, the section, that is the pillar, the subsection, that is the sub-pillar, and the level of risk. Here we have more information, additional information, and more description of why we want to have this attribute, this requirement here, and more information about maybe how to fix it or why it has this value of weight by default or things like that. So let me do a quick demo of this.
Let's go.
So
Real demo.
yeah. Let's see if now it works. So yeah, the thing is that you can go here to cloud.prowler.com and you can see that we are getting, and let me reload the screen. Okay. You can filter here by providers, or maybe you can leave it by default and you can see like the product threat score. for all the providers that support Prowler ThreatScore. As you know, for example, EIC is not supported in Prowler ThreatScore, but at the end, we are not taking this provider into account when we are calculating this threat score. Okay, so if you put your pointer here, you'll see like all the pillars and scores that we are getting. And the good thing is that you can drill down through this information till we find the risk plot. Okay, so here in this risk plot, imagine that you are having like 50 providers, right? Onboarded on Plugger. So with a brief view, you can see which provider have the slower threat score. So you can see that in this case, Azure Demo is the one that is the worst, right? Because at the end, it has the lowest product threat score. So you know that you have to prioritize the fix in this Azure Demo account for the Azure provider. That is at the end the goal of this. If you click here, you can see all the information that all the findings that we are getting. In this case, we are getting 38 findings of high severity. 7 for medium, 1 for low. But in the compliance part, you can see that we have here like all the providers that we support in this case for GCP. Okay, C5, CCC, CIS, Fairground, a lot of compliance. You can go in and drill down information that you want to have. But at the end, as we are treating Prowler ThreatScore as something a bit different than a compliance, we are putting here. And if you click here, sorry, you are getting a 58.82% of Prowler ThreatScore, but you can see the score by pillar, okay? So for example, we can see that attack surface is perfect. We are getting 100%. I'm gonna put this a bit bigger, just in case. Logging and monitoring is a 41, encryption is 100%, and IAM is a 57, okay? So we are gonna go inside this part, and we can see that in the privilege escalation prevention, we are failing these requirements because we are failing for these findings with this risk level and width, okay? So as I said, there's a perfect way to see what really matters, and at the end, getting all the information that you want. If I have 100% in attack surface, I don't really care at all, at least for now. But with this percentage, I know that I have to take care of logging and monitoring. The thing is that we saw a problem, and is that sometimes this view could be something difficult for some users. So we created the PDF report for Prowler ThreatScore that is a way a bit more ingestible, or at least with to give it to your boss, to the person in charge of security from your company or whoever you want, to say, hey, I have this Prowler ThreatScore PDF, and you can have a look and fix the things that really matters first. So if we open it, we can get here the information of the scan associated and the provider associated with Prowler ThreatScore, and we are gonna get the compliance score by section. We can see that we are calculating the same way the percentage as in the Prowler UI, and we are getting the same score already. I repeat myself. As you know, logging and monitoring is something critical here in this case, but encryption and attack surface is doing good for now. Remember to scan your environment frequently because these numbers can change in a matter of seconds. And here we are getting the requirement index. That is a brief view of all the requirements that we are supporting, the pillars, sub-pillars, and the requirements. And in this part, we are gonna show you the top requirements by level of risk. In this case, we are just sorting by, or just filtering by the critical fail requirements that are those who has like the risk level 4 or higher. Okay. In this case, we are only finding one critical findings, And this is the whole information that we are providing to the user. Sometimes we've been having some customers that they have like, I don't know, 1,000 of rows in this table, maybe 50. But it is a way to start fixing stuff instead of fixing or adding tags to resources in order to make requirement pass. Okay, as I said, this requirement has have immediate action requirement. Okay, this is something that you have to fix ASAP. As I said, this is the third requirement. The requirement is 3.3.2. Sorry. We can get more information from this requirement here. We can see that ensure access approval is disabled because the state is failing. And more for all the requirements that have lower risk level and weight, and you can go through all the parts in order to see like your full report. Okay, so this is the PDF reporting for Prowler ThreatScore. Um, and just to finish, to wrap up everything, I wanted to show this PR because I've been adding Prowler ThreatScore for the Alibaba cloud provider, as I said before. So I wanted to show this PR in order to show the spectator how easily you can create a provider in Prowler and how we support it. So mainly the core for this provider will be the JSON file. So if we go through it, as I said, it's a matter of having a list of requirements with attributes. And you can see here that this one has, for example, like 700, 800 more lines. Wow, wow, wow. This one was way bigger, 1,000 lines. So yeah, but you'll see always like all the requirements they should be inside a pilar and a subpilar. That is at the end the thing that really matters in product set score, and of course the level of risk and weight. So I wanted to tell the users or anybody that is watching this to try to add more product threat score compliance or whatever you want to call it to other providers that we support, but we are not supporting product threat score. Okay. So at the end, it's a matter of trying it, looking for information. Maybe I'm missing or we are missing some requirements in product threat score for AWS, and we will try to add them if you feel it useful. Maybe we can change the weight, the risk for a requirement if you don't really feel like this risk and weight is appropriate for the requirement. So yeah, please feel free to open your PR, to open your issue, and we will deal with that. So that's pretty much everything on my side, Andon.
Cool, like really cool. I wanted to add one question. You kind of explained it, but I wanted like to do the question more like focused. Like, do you remember like one clear example of one scan that in a compliance way it was saying like this is like okay, but then you run Prowler threat score and it's like okay, it's not as good as you thought. I mean that happened when you did some tests.
Yeah, yeah. At the end, the S3 bucket and tag example was really good because, for example, for CIS, we were getting like I don't know, 99 or 90% of pass rate because at the end you were counting just the pass requirements and the failed requirements, and we were only failing like a couple of them that were
Yeah.
related with S3 bucket. Open to the internet, S3 bucket open to the internet. Another one, they were missing some tags for some resources. That again is a recommendation, it isn't mandatory at all. But yeah, as I said, this is like 19% in the CIS, but for product threat score, it will be like a 20% or a
Yeah.
10%. So And you can say, hey, I'm almost passing the CIS for with a 90% score, but at the end you have an open S3 bucket. So
Yeah,
how can you be dealing with that? So that's the main goal of Prowler ThreatScore is
yeah,
giving importance to really to the things that matter.
yeah. Measuring security, it's hard to put a number there. I think this is a very good way because yeah, you need to be compliant, but you also need to be secure. So this is a good way of staying uh,
Hmm.
both ways. Yeah, and I also really like the last part. I hope like people take a look and question or contribute, like because another good thing is not only creating new threat score, but as you say, like questioning the ways that we put there, because also it can change on the future. I mean, maybe AWS or whatever provider fix something that by default was in a different way, and then something that had a big weight is no longer a problem. So I really like. I'm going to check if anyone has any question. No, I'm seeing I have people here like that is seeing this live and no questions. So okay, I think yeah, we can wrap it. It will be uploaded to YouTube as the other times. I will put some markers because it was a good presentation. I will put some markers on the different parts of the product test score so people can go directly to how the weight works, to the demo and everything. And that's it for today. Thank you very much, Pedrito. Thank you to the attendees, to the live attendees. Thank you also to the people who will watch this on YouTube later. And see you next year. Stay
You
secure.